The instant I saw Sarah's dirt-streaked sneakers hanging over my fence, I knew trouble had burrowed its way into my life. The rest of her was underground, like some suburban groundhog in spandex. There's a primal chill in discovering your neighbor has tunneled beneath your property to shave a minute off her morning jog. For months, I'd been sealing cracks, fortifying boundaries, and deflecting every entitled ploy Sarah and her HOA posse could muster. But a tunnel? This was a new kind of audacity. The grating scrape of a bargain bin shovel on stone betrayed her, mixed with her nasal grunts and rants about skyrocketing real estate and how circling the block is for chumps. When her head breached the surface in my backyard hair a wild tangle, face smudged with earth, a garish orange visor perched atop the messy stood there, coffee mug in hand, one eyebrow arched in silent judgment. "Morning, Sarah," I said, voice laced with mock warmth. "Misplaced something?" She froze, half emerged, eyes wide, caught like a thief in the spotlight. "It's just a shortcut," she blurted, as if those words carried the weight of a court order. "I'm late for spin class. This is basically community land. Didn't you shift your fence last year?" Her voice rose, as if volume could redraw deeds. I took a slow sip, eyeing the steel posts I'd sunk in myself after her last scheme claiming my yard as a shared herb garden. "No, Sarah," I said evenly. "That was your attorney's daydream." The surveyor begged to differ. "And yet, here you are, burrowing under my property." Her gaze sharpened, scheming. Sarah's logic was clear. What she wanted, she deserved. If you had it, you were robbing her of her rights. But tunneling? Even for her, this was bold. She mumbled about HOA rules not banning underground paths, but I cut her off with a grin. "Maybe crawl back before you drag dirt across my deck." She shot me a venomous look, kicked a clump of soil, and vanished into her hole, muttering about legal action. I knew this was just the start. Letting it slide would mean finding her hosting HOA picnics in my crawl space. It was time to fight back. I inspected her tunnel. This wasn't a quaint burrow, it was a 4-foot-wide passage, shored up with plywood and garden stakes, with ATV tracks snaking through. She'd built a freeway under my lawn. My fence was a rec board's pried loose, some missing entirely. I snapped photos, cataloging every detail. Evidence was my shield, and I was already plotting the knockout punch. Filling a tunnel is simpler than digging one, especially with a friend in construction and some cash left from fending off Sarah's last legal stunt. I didn't just want a fix, I wanted a spectacle, the kind of triumph that would echo through the neighborhood for years. Over the next week, Sarah treated her tunnel like a public highway, popping up at odd hours, sometimes with her yapping poodle, other times filming her shortcut for the HOA group chat. She even planted a community access path sign by my garage, as if I'd endorsed her madness. The HOA sent a letter pushing open dialogue, which meant they were too spineless to rein her in. Talking wouldn't stop her, she'd just dig again. I needed something as outrageous as her tunnel, but legal and final. I called my buddy Jake, who owed me after I helped him clear raccoons from his shed. He worked at a cement company. "You want to fill a tunnel?" he asked, chuckling. "Whose?" "Sarah's," I replied. That was all he needed. "I'm in. Truck's ready Saturday. No charge for righteous payback." I spent days preparing, setting up trail cams, bolstering the fence around the tunnel's entrance, confirming my legal footing. The tunnel was on my land real estate. Her voice grew shrill, as if volume could rewrite deeds. I sipped my coffee, eyeing the steel posts I'd cemented last summer after her attempt to claim my backyard as a community garden. "No, Sarah," I said calmly. "That was your lawyer's fantasy. The surveyor settled that. And now you're on my side again." Literally. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. Sarah's logic was simple. What she wanted was her right. Denying her was a violation of her freedoms. But this was bold, even for her. She started rambling about HOA bylaws not explicitly banning tunnels, but I cut her off with a smile. "Maybe you'd better head back before you track mud onto my patio." She glared, kicked the dirt, and vanished into her burrow, muttering about lawsuits. Watching her retreat, I knew this couldn't stand. If I let it slide, what next? Her hosting HOA meetings in my basement? This demanded a counterstrike. Kneeling by the tunnel entrance, I saw it wasn't some innocent burrow, it was 4 feet wide, reinforced with plywood and stakes, with ATV tire tracks leading in. She'd planned a thoroughfare. My fence was battered, boards pried loose, some gone. I snapped photos, documenting everything. Evidence was key, and I was already plotting the nuclear option. Filling a tunnel is easier than digging one, especially with construction contacts and leftover funds from Sarah's last legal stunt. I wanted more than a solution, I wanted a moment, the kind that would shut her down and give the neighborhood a story to whisper about for years. Sarah started using the tunnel like a public road, popping up at all hours, sometimes with her yappy dog, other times live streaming her trespass for the HOA group chat. She even staked a shared access pathway signed by my shed, rubbing it in. The HOA sent a letter about open dialogue and compromise, as if reasoning with Sarah wouldn't end in a headache. Talking was futile, just dig again. I needed something as audacious as her tunnel, but perfectly legal and final. I called my friend Mark, who owed me after I helped him wrangle feral chickens from his attic. He worked for a cement company. "Fill a tunnel?" he said, incredulous. "Whose?" "Sarah's," I replied. That was enough. Say no more. Truck's ready Saturday. No charge for neighborly revenge. I spent days prepping, setting up trail cams, reinforcing the fence around the tunnel's mouth, ensuring my legal ducks were in a row. The tunnel was on my property, and I had the paperwork to prove it. Saturday morning, Mark's cement truck rolled in, chute aimed at the hole. Just as we started, Sarah's ATV roared out, dust flying. She stormed over, demanding answers. "Just property maintenance," I said, hand on the lever, deadpan. "Feel free to live stream this too." She sputtered, fury rising, but I was calm, relishing every second. As neighbors watched from their windows, I pulled the lever, and cement poured in, thick and unstoppable, sealing her shortcut. It wasn't just revenge, it was a message. I expected Sarah to explode, scream, call the cops, maybe swing a shovel. Instead, she vanished. No new incursions, no HOA notices, just suspicious silence. 3 days later, she was at my door in a muddy blazer, clutching folders, flanked by 2 HOA board members, Mrs. Lopez, a street veteran, and Chad, the treasurer banned from the pool over a flow-tie spat. Sarah marched into my kitchen, spreading documents like a prosecutor. "You've destroyed a vital community pathway," she declared, waving bylaws like holy writ. Section 4, Paragraph 7, shared amenities and historical access. I stifled a laugh. She'd invented a historical pathway from her week-old tunnel. I pulled out my own folder, photos, tire tracks, survey, trail cam footage. "This is my property, Sarah. Your tunnel's trespassing. No historical access unless your ATV's a time machine." Mrs. Lopez eyed the evidence. Chad looked ready to flee. Sarah pivoted, claiming the tunnel was a mobility aid for uneven sidewalks. "There are grants for that," I said. "Digging under my fence isn't one." Mrs. Lopez murmured about de-escalation, but Sarah snapped photos, muttering about lawsuits. They left, and I laughed, but I knew she'd keep coming. Days later, a certified letter from her lawyer accused me of emotional distress, obstructing a community pathway, and sabotaging a mobility device, demanding damages and a court order to reopen the tunnel. My lawyer, Tom, nearly choked laughing. Creative, but it's noise. She'll get laughed out of court. Still, the war escalated. Sarah's HOA group chat campaign painted me as a tyrant, twisting rumors until I'd supposedly laced the cement with poison. Neighbors texted, asking if I'd endangered a disabled resident. I countered with a property tour for the board. Chad and Mrs. Lopez came, Sarah trailing like an angry general. I showed the fence damage, sealed tunnel, survey. Sarah ranted about psychological warfare, waving an email where I'd asked her to keep her dog out of my tomatoes. The board looked exhausted. Mrs. Lopez sighed. "This is out of hand." Sarah didn't stop. She called code enforcement, claiming my cement was an environmental hazard. Inspector Max checked everything, shook his head, and said, "This feud's going in my memoir." He cleared me. Hours later, Sarah was back, hard hat on, mini excavator digging a new tunnel. I called the police, filmed, and warned her of trespassing charges. The officer filed a report. She left. But she posted a melodramatic neighborhood Facebook rant, casting herself as a folk hero against fence elites. Neighbors, fed up, shared their own Sarah story-ish find a kid for chalk art, demanded a lawn be resodded for being too cheerful. Her post tanked, buried in mockery. Still, she sued, her new lawyer looking defeated. In court, her team spun tales of sacred community access, but Tom's evidence surveys, videos, police reports crushed them. The judge, barely hiding a chuckle, dismissed the case, warning Sarah to stay off my land or face charges. Neighbors cheered outside, one with popcorn. Victory felt sweet, but Sarah wasn't done. She lurked by my fence, snapping photos for an HOA survey. I told her to leave, or I'd call the cops. The HOA, fed up, voted her out as vice president, banned her projects, and ordered her to fix my fence. Her real HOA flopped, joined only by her nephew and dog. Sarah's final gambit came with city trucks probing her claim that my cement caused ground instability. Another bluff, debunked. Her half-built ramp collapsed in a storm, scattering debris. At an emergency HOA meeting, I laid out the chaos code violations, safety risks, complaints. The board halted her projects. Sarah stormed out, blueprints crumpled. My yard was quiet, my fence solid, my tomatoes safe. One evening, sipping a drink on my porch, I saw Sarah pass by, dog in tow, glaring. I raised my glass of silent, better luck next time. Peace returned, one not with shouts or lawsuits, but with one relentless river of cement. Some lines can't be crossed, and Sarah learned that the hard way.